I, R, a 44-year-old woman, was married to my husband, Adam, for 16 years. We had problems in our marriage early on, around year 5, and I asked for a divorce because he acted like he didn't want to be married. We both worked full-time, but when I came home, I cooked, cleaned, and took care of our kid. When he came home, he'd sit down and do nothing. I'd constantly have to ask for help, and even then, he'd procrastinate until I finally did it myself. It got so bad that I stopped asking for help. I found out I was pregnant and decided I'd rather be alone with 2 kids than stay with him, so I asked for a divorce. He cried and said he'd do better and help me more. To his credit, he did improve for about 6 months. Then he went back to his old ways, and over time he got worse. A few years passed, and he was out of the country on business when I was going over the bills and noticed our cell phone bill was over $2,000. I noticed 2 numbers in particular were called the most, so I called them. One was the younger woman he was sleeping with, and the other was her father. Apparently, he'd been dating her for months and had met her family. He'd lied and told them we were divorcing, and she, Lainey, could move back to the States and live in our home. Ed, Lainey's dad, told me she was pregnant and a few months from having Adam's son. I called Adam at work and asked him about this. Instead of talking to me, he hung up and ran to his boss's office. They called me back on speakerphone, and we worked out a plan for him to move out. In the same week, I filed for divorce, and within 6 months, we were divorced. He was embarrassed and extremely angry. He called me all kinds of B words and even told me he hoped I ended up homeless living in a ditch. His affair partner had their son, and he moved to a job out of the country to try and have a relationship with Lainey and their son. That didn't last long, and he eventually abandoned her and their son just like he abandoned our kids. To end on a happy note, I put my kids in therapy. My oldest kid refused therapy and eventually blamed me for the divorce. However, my youngest thrived in therapy. It's been 7 years now, and we are the happiest we've ever been. Every few years, he'll pop up and demand to co-parent, but he had no relationship with our kids before the divorce, so it's too late now. Recently, I had to go no contact as he has a temper and often becomes verbally abusive.